trust equation is a descriptive model for how trust works. What are the parts of it? Think of it as 5 pieces, and it really is an equation. You know, X equals blah, blah, blah over Y. And let's define those now. X is trust, or actually trustworthiness, how worthy we are of other people's trust. There's 3 factors in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. Credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. 3 out of those 4 serve to increase the extent to which people trust us. So if people look at us and say, well, he's credible, that's a good. That increases their trust in me, my trustworthiness. If people say, well, he's reliable, that increases people's trust in me. If people say, I feel intimate with him, I know it's an intentionally shocking word in the business context, but it means safe, secure, okay, then to that extent, people trust me. The equation has those 3 factors in the numerator. So if you increase the value of those factors in the numerator, you increase the value of your trustworthiness. The one in the denominator is the self-orientation. And notice that because there's only 1 factor in the denominator, it's more important than the other 3. Self-orientation is a measure of how much you're focused on yourself versus the other person. The first 2 factors in the trust equation, credibility, reliability, those are kind of the rational factor components. And the intimacy, self-orientation, we tend to think of as kind of more emotional. In the work that I do with consulting firms and in professional service firms in general, not surprisingly, we tend to focus on the 2 rational components, credibility, reliability. Instinctively, most of us as consultants, when we say, well, how can I become more trustworthy? We think, well, more brains, more analytical power, more mastery of more cognitive models. You can overdo that very easily. Mark Hahn has a fascinating example that he mentions of talking to a client about whether the client trusted Accenture. And as I recall it, the client said, well, I trust you guys to be very capable, analytically rigorous, credible. I trust you guys to be very smart. I trust you guys to be smarter than our people. I trust you guys to be so much smarter than our people that when there comes to be a disagreement, I trust you guys to out-argue my guys and to win the arguments. And so I'm not really sure I trust you all that much. Now what that client is doing is very nicely articulating the balance between intellectual power and rigor and just self-orientation. If you put all these skills at service only to you, after some point the client says, they don't really care about me, they just care about themselves. Every person is very, very different, and in many ways, trust only gets established when we are willing to open ourselves up and reveal who we really are. At that point, people say, oh, I get this person, you know, they're not perfect here, they're not perfect there, but I know who they are. They're honest enough to let me know who they are. Then I can establish a relationship. So that's what I would call the intimacy factor in the trust equation. Self-orientation comes in a couple of flavors. The obvious one is selfishness. If you're in it for yourself and you're not in it for me, then I don't particularly trust you. If you're in it for me, for my sake, then I trust you quite a bit more. But the most common form of high self-orientation is simply self-preoccupation. You're nervous, you're concerned, you're standing in front of a group, you're worrying about how the slides look, how your tie is, and all those things detract from your ability to just focus on the other person.